not start about talking about farmers markets directly. I live in an old farmhouse. Half of it was built in 1720, and the second half is built in 1810. And I noticed that the molding here in this 1809 house is identical to the molding that's in my house. And I point that out because back then they had itinerant molding makers, and they would have their set of planes, and they would travel from town to town. So evidently, either an apprentice or the molding maker that worked on this house worked on my house. So the point is that even back then, people were borrowing ideas from one another. So Judy mentioned how the Newton market started borrowing on the idea from Brookline. And that whole process started in 1978 with the Department of Agriculture investing itself in setting up farmers markets or trying to set up farmers markets as a result of a 1974 report on the state of food and the economy in agriculture in Massachusetts. And one of the recommendations coming out of that report was to get farmers more involved in direct retail sales, and farmers markets was the tool back then. So markets began to be reset up, and I say reset up because you're all probably aware that in the 1800s particularly, Waltham and Newton were known as the farmers market for Boston. Food was grown here and brought into Boston, and of course there was the farmers market at Scully Square and so on. So the concept of farmers markets is certainly nothing new. They went out of vogue, although I understand that in Brockton, at the Brockton Fairgrounds, there was a farmers market that started in the 30s and continued reportedly right on through till today. So it may have the distinction of being the oldest continually running farmers market in the state, but I can't get the real hard facts that confirm that. But in any case, Newton certainly was one of the first, in the first wave of the new set of farmers markets beginning in 1970. And now we have 260 or so farmers markets. There'll be somewhere in the 40s, perhaps more, winter farmers markets in the state this year. That's up from 0 in 2009. Yeah. So you can see the very rapid growth based upon consumer interest of fresh local food. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why. I'm not going to bore you with all the details of why, because I'm sure you already know that. That's why you're here. But at the end of the day, our food system has been re-envisioned more like it used to be in the 1800s, where people connected directly with farmers to get their produce and had a better sense of how things were grown and why practices, agricultural practices are what they are for each farmer. So it's been a pleasure for me to participate first as a farmer and then as executive director of Mass Farmers Markets. And Judy said she knew me as a young farmer, and she did. And I just found out how I really got involved in Mass Farmers Market because Judy said that she recommended me to be on the board. So here's the backstory to that. As a farmer, I wasn't getting the services I thought were necessary to support me in farming and farmers markets. So I complained a lot to the executive director of Mass Farmers Markets at the time, and Judy was on the board at the time. And so after a couple of years of going to board meetings and going to association meetings and speaking and telling everything that they were doing wrong, evidently they thought that I basically the executive director came to me and said, look, you need to shut up or you need to get on and help make a change. So I said, okay, I'll take the bait, and I got on the board. I served on the board with Judy for a good number of years and continued farming during all that time frame. And then in 2000, I had the opportunity to become executive director, and I semi-retired from farming, which means I only worked 6 hours a day instead of 20.
Where's your farmship?
In Sutton, Mass.
Sutton.
Just south of Worcester. Worcester, by the way, where the revolution actually started. Central and historical building, with farmers kicking the court, the king had appointed people through the governor to be court magistrates and so on, and all the farmers literally put a few out of town on pitchforks. So and there was no one to take over. So some of these issues were what we, when I first got on board, Judy and I and the rest of the board were wrestling with how to produce some sustainability to the market so that the community and the farmers can not invest themselves and then lose that investment if the market forward. So Mass Farmers Markets was set up as a charitable nonprofit organization. We work with every single farmers market in the state, some of them more closely than others, but we continue to administer the farmers market coupon program, which was started by a collaboration between Mass Farmers Markets and the Department of Ag. It's the first in the nation. It served as a model. I remember the executive director, the board authorizing the expenses of sending the executive director back then to Washington, D.C. on a number of times to testify before Congress. And now it's a national program, some $20 million a year. Which is
that when your money's doubled, but when you spend it?
No, that's the double value coupon program. This is the farmers market coupon program, which is either seniors or WIC mothers will get a certain amount of money to spend at the farmers market. There's not enough money to go around, particularly in the senior program, but that's how that works. The double value coupon program is something that was started by Wholesome Wave. Wholesome Wave was started by Gus Schumacher. Gus Schumacher was the Commissioner of Agriculture and started the farmers market coupon program. So his belief in using public money in a way that will support local agriculture has kept going right on through from the 80s and right until now. Those are dollars that are matched for food stamp SNAP. If someone comes to a market that is operating at a food stamp or SNAP terminal, they can get extra money through the grants that are provided from the Wholesome Way Foundation. They also are a charity, and like us, to go out and seek the charitable funds to provide those matching dollars. So I think I'm going to stop with my talking and just